I remember the exact moment my world split in two. It wasn't when they lowered the coffin. It wasn't when the priest said the final words. It wasn't even when I realized I would never hear his voice again. It was the laughter. Soft. Careless. Completely out of place. And it came from someone who should have been grieving just like me. The sky was gray that morning, heavy with clouds that never quite decided whether to rain or not. The air felt thick, like even the wind was holding its breath. I stood beside the grave, my fingers wrapped tightly around a single white lily. I didn't even remember picking it. Someone must have handed it to me. People kept coming up, whispering condolences. "I'm so sorry for your loss. He was such a good man. You're so strong, Sophia." Strong. I hated that word. I wasn't strong. I was hollow. My brother, Daniel, was gone. Just like that. One phone call. One sentence. Cardiac arrest. He was only 40. 40. Healthy. Active. Careful with everything. Food. Exercise. Even stress. He used to joke that he'd outlive all of us. And yet there I was, watching them lower him into the ground. It didn't make sense. Nothing did. I barely noticed people leaving. The crowd slowly dissolved until only a few remained. Among them was Lena, Daniel's wife. She stood a few steps away from the grave, dressed perfectly in black. Not a wrinkle, not a tear out of place. Her makeup was flawless, almost too flawless. Her eyes were dry. Not once had I seen her cry. At first, I told myself people grieve differently. But something felt off. I couldn't explain it then. I didn't need to. Because a few minutes later, everything became painfully clear. I needed air. That's what I told myself as I stepped away from the group and walked toward the edge of the cemetery. There was an old stone path leading to a cluster of trees. Quiet, hidden, away from everyone. Daniel and I used to come here as kids. Back when life was simple. Back when nothing hurt like this. I leaned against a tree, closing my eyes, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Low. Sharp. Wrong. My eyes snapped open. At first, I thought I imagined it. Grief does strange things to your mind. But then I heard it again. Closer this time. Familiar. Too familiar. I moved slowly, instinctively, staying behind the trees. And then I saw her, Lena, standing just beyond a row of bushes, her back half turned to me. And she wasn't alone. A man stood with her. Tall. Well-dressed. Relaxed. Too relaxed. "I told you it would work," Lena said, her voice light, almost playful. I froze. The man chuckled. "You really had me worried for a second, but you pulled it off perfectly." My heart started pounding. "Pulled what off?" "I've been preparing for this for years," she replied casually. "You don't think I'd mess it up at the end, do you?" Years. The word echoed in my head. The man stepped closer to her. "And now," she smiled. I couldn't see it fully, but I heard it in her voice. "Now everything is ours." I gripped the tree beside me so hard my nails dug into the bark. No. No, no, no. This couldn't be what it sounded like. "Are you sure no one suspects anything?" the man asked. "Please," Lena scoffed softly. "Sophia is completely broken. She can barely think straight. Daniel was her entire world." My breath caught. "She won't question anything," Lena continued. "Not now. Not ever." The man laughed quietly. "And the money?" "Life insurance alone is huge," she said. "And the house, don't even get me started. That place is worth a fortune." I felt like the ground beneath me was slipping. They weren't just talking about money. They were talking about my brother. Like he was a transaction. "What about Sophia?" the man asked after a pause. There it was. My name. Lena didn't hesitate. Oh, she's easy, she said. Easy. She's grieving. Vulnerable. Exactly what we need. Something cold spread through my chest. We'll move in, she continued. I'll say I can't handle being alone. She'll insist I stay. She always does what feels right. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out and confront her. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Then what? The man asked. Lena's voice dropped. Calm. Calculated. Then we slowly take control. My heart was racing so hard I thought they'd hear it. Control of what? He asked. Everything, she replied. Her trust. Her finances. The house. The man let out a low whistle. And if she resists? Lena laughed again. That same sharp, empty laugh. She won't. A pause. And if she does, she added quietly, we'll make sure she doesn't know what's real anymore. I stopped breathing. Gaslighting. Manipulation. Control. They weren't just planning something. They had already planned it. For years. We just need a little time, Lena said. A few weeks, maybe a month. Then everything falls into place. And after that? The man asked. Her answer came without hesitation. We disappear. I didn't remember how I got back. One moment I was standing there, listening. The next, I was among people again, nodding at things I didn't hear, moving like a ghost through the rest of the day. Everything felt distant, muted, unreal, but one thought burned through the fog. Clear. Sharp. Unavoidable. My brother didn't just die. And I wasn't safe. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at Daniel's photo on my phone. My hands were shaking. Not from grief. From something else. Something stronger. Something colder. They think I'm broken, I whispered. I let out a slow breath. They think I'm weak. A faint, bitter smile touched my lips. They have no idea who they're dealing with. 3 days after the funeral, Lena called me. I knew she would. I had replayed that conversation in the cemetery so many times that by then, nothing she said could surprise me. Still, when I saw her name on my phone, my chest tightened, not from grief this time, but from something colder, sharper. Awareness. Sophia. Her voice trembled just enough to sound believable. I don't think I can stay in that apartment anymore. Everything reminds me of Daniel. Of course it does, I thought. Aloud, I stayed silent for a second, letting her fill the space. People like Lena hated silence. It made them nervous. I was wondering, she continued softly, maybe I could stay with you for a while, just until I feel stable again. Exactly as planned. Every word matched what I had heard behind those bushes. I closed my eyes briefly, steadying myself. You don't have to be alone, I said, keeping my voice gentle. You can stay as long as you need. There was a pause, barely noticeable, but I caught it. Relief. Not emotional relief. Strategic relief. Thank you, Sophia, she said quickly. You have no idea how much this means to me. Oh, I do, I thought. More than you'd ever want. And would it be okay if Adrian came too? She added carefully. He's been helping me through everything. He doesn't really have anywhere else to go right now. Adrian. So that was his name. Not cousin. Not friend. Something else entirely. The man from the cemetery. The more the better, I replied calmly. This place has felt too quiet lately. Really? She said, almost too quickly. Yes, I said. Really. They moved in the next day. Not a week later. Not temporarily. The very next day. That alone told me everything I needed to know. I stood by the window as their car pulled up. Then another. And another. Boxes. Suitcases. Expensive luggage. Way too much for a short stay. Adrian stepped out first. Confident. Relaxed. Like he belonged there already. He stretched slightly, glanced around, then gave a small approving nod, as if evaluating property he had just purchased. Not someone asking for help. Someone taking possession. Lena followed, wearing oversized sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. When she removed them, her eyes looked perfectly fine.
No redness. No swelling.
No trace of sleepless nights or tears. She smiled when she saw me at the door. A warm, practiced smile. "Sophia," she said, stepping forward and hugging me. I let her. Her embrace was light, careful, calculated. "I don't know what I would do without you," she whispered.
I did.
And she knew I knew. Within hours, the house began to change. Subtly at first, then faster. By evening, it already felt different. Adrian carried in a sleek coffee machine and placed it on the kitchen counter without asking. Lena rearranged the living room, moving my furniture just a little to open up the space. My favorite armchair, the one Daniel used to sit in, was pushed into a corner. I said nothing. I watched. I remembered. "Hope you don't mind," Adrian said casually as he plugged in his laptop at the dining table. "I'll need a space to work."
Work. Interesting.
"What do you do?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "A bit of everything." That told me everything. The first real test came that night.
Dinner.
Lena insisted on cooking. "You've done so much already," she said sweetly. "Let me take care of you for once." I almost laughed, but I nodded instead. Of course. I paid attention. Every movement, every detail, especially when she poured the drinks. 3 glasses of tea. She placed mine in front of me last. Her fingers lingered on the cup for just a fraction of a second longer than necessary. Adrian watched her. Just for a moment. A silent exchange. Then both of them looked at me, waiting. I smiled faintly, picked up the cup, brought it close to my lips.
Paused.
"I forgot something," I said suddenly, standing up. I carried the cup with me to the kitchen, turned my back, and quietly poured the tea down the sink. When I returned, I set the empty cup on the table.
Tastes good, I said.
Lena smiled. Adrian nodded. They thought they had already taken the first step. They were wrong. Over the next few days, the pattern became clearer. Things started disappearing. At first, small things. My keys. My glasses. A letter I had left on the table. Each time, Lena would tilt her head slightly and say, "Are you sure you didn't move it?" Adrian would add, "It happens. Stress can do that." They were planting seeds.
Doubt.
Confusion. Exactly like she said they would. One morning, I opened my drawer and found my documents rearranged.
Not randomly. Carefully.
As if someone had been searching for something specific. That's when I knew they weren't just testing me anymore. They were preparing. That same evening, I overheard them again. Their voices low. Careful. But not careful enough. "We need to move faster," Adrian said. "I know," Lena replied. "But if we push too hard, she might start questioning things." "She already looks confused half the time," he muttered. "That's not enough," Lena said. "We need proof. Something official." A pause. Then, "The doctor?" "Yes." My stomach tightened. "Once we have that," she continued, "everything becomes easy." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, piecing everything together. They wanted control. Legal control. They wanted me to look unstable, forgetful, incapable, and then they'd take everything. I turned my head slightly and looked at the photo on my nightstand. Daniel,
Smiling. Alive.
trusting. "They think I'm already gone," I whispered. My hands slowly clenched into fists. "They think I won't fight." A quiet, steady calm settled over me. Not panic, not fear. Something much more dangerous.
Clarity.
If they wanted a confused, grieving woman, I would give them one. But only until I had everything I needed. Because they weren't the only ones making a plan. And mine had already begun. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise, long before either of them could start their performance for the day. For the first time since Daniel died, my mind felt sharp, clear in a way that almost frightened me. Grief was still there, heavy and constant, but something else had settled over it.
Focus. Purpose.
I sat at the kitchen table in the dim light, hands wrapped around a cup of tea I had made myself, and forced myself to think like them. Not emotionally. Not as a sister. As someone calculating outcomes. If I were in their position, what would I do next? Control the narrative. Isolate the target. Create evidence. Push for legal authority. That meant I needed three things. People I could trust, proof of what they were doing, and a way to stay one step ahead without letting them suspect anything. I pulled a small notebook from a drawer, the kind no one ever pays attention to, and wrote those 3 points down. My hand didn't shake. That surprised me. By the time Lena came downstairs, I was already sitting there with a crossword puzzle, deliberately squinting at the page as if struggling to focus. "Good morning," she said, watching me closely. Always watching. "Did you sleep well?" I looked up slowly, as if it took effort. "I think so. I had strange dreams," I murmured. Her eyes flickered, not with concern, but interest. Adrian followed a moment later, stretching like he owned the place. "You look tired," he said. "Maybe you should rest more during the day." I nodded vaguely, pretending to forget what I had just been doing. "I keep misplacing things," I added quietly. "It's frustrating." That was exactly what they wanted to hear. I saw it in the way Lena's shoulders relaxed just slightly. Encouragement. Confirmation. They thought their plan was working. After breakfast, during which I carefully avoided consuming anything they prepared, I told them I was going for a short walk. Lena hesitated. "Do you want me to come with you?" she asked quickly. Too quickly. No, I said, waving my hand dismissively. "I just need some fresh air. Clear my head." She studied me for a second, then smiled. "Don't go too far." I almost smiled back. Almost. Instead of walking aimlessly, I went straight to the one person I knew I could trust without question. Maya. We had been friends for over 20 years. She wasn't just someone who listened. She was someone who paid attention. The kind of person who noticed things others missed. When she opened the door, her expression shifted immediately from relief to concern. "Sophia, I've been trying to call you," she said. "Lena keeps saying you're resting or not up for talking." Of course she did. Isolation. Step 1. "I don't have much time," I said quietly, stepping inside. "And what I'm about to tell you is going to sound insane." She didn't laugh, didn't question, just nodded. "Then you better start talking." I told her everything. The cemetery, the conversation, the plan,
The tea.
the disappearing things, the doctor. I expected hesitation.
Doubt.
Something. But Maya just listened, her face growing colder with every word. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. "They're not just manipulating you," she said. "They're building a case against you." I nodded. "I know. And if they succeed," she continued, "they take everything." Yes. A pause. Then she leaned forward slightly. "So we stopped them." "Not you."
We.
That one word changed everything.
We moved quickly after that.
Maya called someone she trusted, a former legal assistant named Claire, who had spent decades dealing with cases involving fraud and elder abuse. Within hours, we had a rough plan. Documentation was everything. Not assumptions, not suspicions. Evidence. Real, undeniable proof. You need recordings, Claire said over the phone. Conversations. Actions. Anything that shows intent. And what about the doctor? I asked. If they get a false diagnosis, then we counter it, she said firmly. But first, we make sure no one can question your mental state. That meant I needed my own doctor involved. Someone independent. Someone they couldn't influence. By the time I returned home, I had already taken the first step, and they had no idea. That evening, I pushed things further. I sat in the living room, staring at the TV without really watching it, and deliberately asked Lena the same question 3 times within 10 minutes. Each time, I made it seem like I genuinely didn't remember asking before. The 3rd time, she glanced at Adrian, barely hiding her satisfaction. You already asked me that, Sophia, she said gently. Oh, did I? I frowned, as if confused.
I'm sorry.
I must be tired. Adrian leaned back in his chair, watching me like I was already slipping away. It happens, he said. Memory is a fragile thing. Yes, I thought.
It is.
But not mine. Later that night, after they thought I had gone to bed, I placed a small recording device Maya had given me under the side table in the dining room. It was old-fashioned, simple, reliable.
No apps, no signals.
Nothing they could track. Then I returned to my room and waited. Around midnight, I heard them. Footsteps. Soft voices. The faint sound of papers being moved. I stayed still, counting every second, forcing myself not to move too soon. When I finally slipped out of bed and quietly approached the hallway, I could hear them clearly. We're close, Adrian said. I know, Lena replied, but we need to be careful. She's already slipping, he said. Did you see her tonight? A small pause. Then Lena laughed.
Low. Cold.
Yes, she said. Exactly as planned. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent. We should start preparing the documents, he continued. Power of attorney, financial access, everything. I already started, she said. Paper rustled. And the doctor? He asked. Appointment is set, she replied. By next week, we'll have everything we need. I closed my eyes briefly. There it was.
Proof.
Not enough yet, but a start. The next morning, I acted worse. Slower. More forgetful. At one point, I deliberately left the stove on without lighting it. Lena noticed immediately. Sophia, she said softly, turning it off. That's dangerous. I blinked at it, pretending confusion. Oh, I must have forgotten. Adrian shook his head slightly, like he was already accepting my decline. Inside, I felt something almost like satisfaction. They were falling for it. Completely. By afternoon, Maya texted me. Recorder ready? I replied.
Yes.
Got something already. A moment later.
Good.
Keep going. Don't rush. I won't, I thought. Because the longer this went on, the more they would reveal. That night, as I lay in bed, I listened again. More whispers, more plans, more confidence. They thought they were controlling everything. They thought I was already lost. But they had made one critical mistake. They assumed I was reacting. They never considered I was leading them exactly where I wanted. And soon, they would have nowhere left to run. By the 4th day of playing their game, I could feel the shift. Not in them. They were becoming more confident, more careless, but in myself. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was anticipating. Every look, every word, every movement from Lena and Adrian felt predictable, like I had already seen it before. And that was dangerous for them. Still, I had to be careful. Overconfidence ruins even the best plans. So I stayed slow, quiet, forgetful. Exactly what they expected. That morning, Lena approached me with a kind of rehearsed gentleness that almost impressed me. Sophia, she said, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder. I've been thinking, maybe we should get you checked by a specialist. Just to be safe. There it was. The doctor. I looked up at her, blinking as if trying to process the suggestion. A doctor? I repeated. Why? Adrian stepped in smoothly, like they had practiced this. You've just seemed a little confused lately. Nothing serious, but it's better to catch things early. I hesitated just long enough to make it believable. I suppose that makes sense, I murmured. Inside, my mind was already racing.
Good.
They were accelerating. That meant mistakes. I can book the appointment, Lena said quickly. I know someone very good. Of course you do, I thought. All right, I said quietly. If you think it's necessary. Her smile was small but sharp. Victory in her mind. Another step completed. The moment they left the room, I reached for my phone and sent a message to Maya. They're moving forward with the doctor. Her reply came almost instantly. Good. That means they're close to making a move. We need more evidence now. I already knew that. What I didn't know yet was how far they were willing to go. That answer came sooner than I expected. That night, I didn't pretend to sleep. I waited, listened, watched the faint line of light under my door. When it finally disappeared, I counted to 100 before moving. Quietly, slowly, I stepped into the hallway. Their voices came from the kitchen this time, lower than before. Tense. We're running out of time, Adrian said. I know, Lena snapped softly, but pushing too hard could ruin everything. She's already unstable, he insisted. We just need to make it official. A pause. Then something that made my blood run cold. Maybe we should increase it, he added. Increase what? Lena hesitated. Then, just a little, she said. I stopped breathing. She's already showing signs, Adrian continued. If we speed it up, the doctor won't question anything. My fingers curled into my palm. They were talking about something specific. Something physical. Something they were giving me. I moved back to my room slowly, every step controlled. Once inside, I closed the door without a sound and leaned against it, my heart pounding, not from fear, but from realization.
The tea.
The coffee. Every time they insisted I drink something. I had suspected manipulation, gaslighting. But this was something else entirely. The next morning, I paid attention more carefully than ever before. Lena made coffee again. 3 cups. Same pattern. Mine last. Same slight pause. Same glance at Adrian. I took the cup, smiling faintly, and lifted it to my lips. But this time, I didn't just pretend. I smelled it. Faint. Barely noticeable. But something was off. Not strong. Not obvious. Just wrong. I lowered the cup slightly. It tastes different, I said casually. Lena didn't flinch, but her eyes did. Different, she repeated. Maybe I'm imagining it, I added quickly, shaking my head. I've been forgetting things. Adrian chuckled lightly.
See?
That's exactly what we mean. I nodded, as if embarrassed. Then I stood up. I think I need some air. I took the cup with me again, and poured it out. This time I didn't let it go to waste. I collected a small amount in a container Maya had given me, just in case. Within an hour, I was outside again, walking faster than I had in days.
Not aimlessly this time. Purposefully.
Straight to Maya's place. She opened the door before I even knocked, like she had been waiting. Well, she asked. I held up the small container. I think they're drugging me. For the first time since this began. She looked shaken. Are you sure? I heard them, I said. Last night. They want to increase it. Maya stepped aside immediately. Get in. We didn't waste time. She called a doctor she trusted, someone who had worked with cases involving substance misuse and elder abuse before. Within an hour, I was sitting in a small, quiet clinic, rolling up my sleeve. You did the right thing, the doctor said calmly. We'll run tests. Blood work first. Then we analyze that sample. How long? I asked. Preliminary results today, she said. Full confirmation tomorrow. I nodded. That was faster than I expected. Good. Because things were escalating faster than I had planned. When I returned home, Lena was waiting. Her expression was carefully arranged, concern layered over irritation. Where were you? She asked. I told you, I said slowly. I needed air. For hours? Adrian added. I blinked, pretending confusion. Was it that long? They exchanged a glance. There it was again. That silent communication. They were adjusting, recalculating. That evening, Lena insisted on making tea again. I didn't argue, didn't hesitate, didn't question. I played my role perfectly. I drank, or at least I made it look like I did. Then I leaned back slightly, letting my eyes unfocus, letting my movements slow, letting my voice soften. Maybe you're right, I murmured. Maybe I do need help. Lena's lips curved slightly. Not sympathy. Satisfaction. That night, I didn't need to listen at the door. They weren't careful anymore. Their voices carried easily. She's getting worse, Adrian said. Good, Lena replied. That makes this easier. We should prepare everything tomorrow, he added. Yes, she said. No more delays. I lay in bed, staring into the darkness, feeling something shift inside me again. Not fear, not even anger. Something colder, more controlled. They thought they were winning. They thought I was already gone. But tomorrow, everything would change. Because if the test confirmed what I already knew, then this wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was a crime. And I was done playing defense. The call came earlier than I expected. I was sitting in the living room, pretending to struggle with the book I had already read twice, when my phone vibrated softly in my hand. I didn't react immediately. Lena was in the kitchen. Adrian was somewhere upstairs. I counted to 5 before glancing at the screen. It was the doctor. I stood up slowly, as if distracted, and walked toward the hallway. I think I need to lie down, I muttered just loud enough for Lena to hear. She peeked out from the kitchen, watching me carefully. Do you want tea? She asked. Always the tea. I shook my head faintly. No, just tired. Then I stepped into my room and closed the door. The moment the latch clicked, everything in me sharpened. I answered. Sophia, the doctor said, her voice firm but controlled. We have your results. I didn't sit down. I already know, don't I? I asked quietly. A brief pause. Yes, she said. There are sedative compounds in your system. Not prescribed. Not accidental. Repeated exposure. I closed my eyes. That was it. Confirmation. They've been drugging you consistently, she continued. Based on the levels, small doses over time. Enough to cause confusion, memory issues, slowed reactions. Exactly what they needed. Exactly what they planned. Can you prove it? I asked. We already have enough to raise serious concern, she said. And the liquid sample you provided confirms the source. It contains the same compound. My grip tightened around the phone. Then it's time, I said. Within the next hour, everything moved faster than it had since this began. Maya arrived first. Then Claire. Then the doctor. Then someone I hadn't expected but instantly felt relieved to see, Detective Harris, a quiet, observant man who didn't waste words. We sat around Maya's dining table, the air heavy but focused.
No panique.
Just precision. You've done everything right so far, Claire said. You documented, recorded, avoided exposure. Now we move to the final step. Which is? I asked. We catch them in the act, Detective Harris said. I looked at him. They're already guilty, I replied. Not enough, he said calmly. We need undeniable evidence. Something they can't explain away. Something that shows intent, action, and awareness. I nodded slowly. That meant one thing. They need to believe they've won, I said. Exactly, Maya replied. The plan was simple. Dangerously simple. I would agree. Agree to everything. The documents.
The control.
The transfer. I would let them think the final step was complete. And that's when we would end it. By the time I returned home, I had already shifted back into character.
Slower.
Quieter.
Distant.
Lena noticed immediately. You look pale, she said, stepping closer. I feel strange, I murmured. Concern flickered across her face. Not real concern. Anticipation. Maybe we shouldn't wait for the appointment, Adrian said from behind her. We can take care of things now. Reduce the stress. I looked at them both. Let my eyes linger just long enough. Then nodded. Maybe that's best. Everything after that moved quickly. Too quickly. They were eager now. Careless. Exactly what we needed. That evening, Lena brought tea again. This time, I didn't even pretend to question it. I drank, or made it look like I did, and leaned back, letting my body go slack just enough. I think I'm ready, I said quietly. Adrian was already reaching for a folder. Of course he was.
Prepared.
Waiting. They guided me to the dining table. The same table where they had whispered, planned, calculated. Now covered in documents. Papers. Forms. Signatures already marked. I looked down at them, letting my gaze blur slightly. Just sign here, Lena said softly, placing a pen in my hand. We'll take care of everything. Her voice was calm, steady, predatory. My hand hovered over the paper. I could feel both of them leaning in, watching, waiting. This was the moment. The one they had been building toward. The one they believed they controlled. And then,
the doorbell rang. Sharp. Loud.
Persistent. Adrian frowned immediately. Ignore it. But it rang again. And again. Then knocking. Firm. Unavoidable. Lena hesitated. Just for a second. That was all it took. I'll get it, she said, irritation slipping through her voice. She walked to the door. Opened it. And everything changed. Voices. Multiple. Footsteps. Not hesitant. Not uncertain. Controlled. What is this? Adrian snapped, standing up quickly. I didn't move. Didn't rush. Didn't react. Then Maya stepped into the room, followed by Claire. Then the doctor. And behind them, Detective Harris. And 2 uniformed officers. Lena froze. Adrian stepped back. The folder slipped slightly in his hand. What's going on? Lena demanded, her voice rising. No one answered her. Not immediately. Instead, I slowly straightened in my chair. My hand no longer shaking. My eyes no longer unfocused. My voice no longer weak. I think, I said calmly, it's time we stop pretending. Silence.
Heavy.
Absolute. They stared at me. Confusion first. Then realization. Then something else.
Fear.
Claire stepped forward, placing a laptop on the table. She opened it. Turned the screen toward them. Pressed play. The video was clear. Too clear. Lena pouring something into my tea. Adrian sorting through my documents. Both of them speaking. Planning. Laughing. Then audio. Their voices. Undeniable. She's getting worse. We just need her to sign. Increase the dose. Lena's face drained of color. Adrian didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't even blink. This is illegal, he said finally. Detective Harris almost smiled. Yes, he said. It is. The doctor stepped forward next. We also have toxicology results, she said. Confirmed presence of non-prescribed sedatives in her system, consistent with repeated administration. Lena shook her head quickly. That's not true. She's confused. She probably. I'm not confused, I said quietly. She stopped, looked at me, really looked this time, and saw it. I wasn't broken. I wasn't weak. I wasn't theirs. I had never been. You planned this, she whispered. I tilted my head slightly. No, I said. A small pause. You did. Detective Harris stepped forward. Lena Carter. Adrian Voss, he said clearly. You are under arrest for fraud, attempted coercion, unlawful administration of controlled substances, and financial exploitation. The words landed like final blows. Adrian reacted first. Wait, this is a misunderstanding. It wasn't, and he knew it. Lena didn't speak, didn't argue, didn't fight. She just stared at me, hatred burning through her expression. This isn't over, she said quietly. I stood up, slowly, calmly. Yes, I replied. It is. As they were let out, the house fell silent. Not empty, not broken.
Free.
For the first time since Daniel died, I could breathe. But something told me this wasn't the end, because people like them didn't just plan theft. They planned everything, and I still didn't know how far that plan really went. The house felt different after they were gone. Not quieter, because silence had already been there long before Lena and Adrian arrived, but clearer. Like something heavy had been removed from the air, something I hadn't even realized I was breathing in every day. Still, peace didn't come immediately. It never does after something like that, because when the danger ends, the questions begin. And I had one question that refused to leave me alone. What really happened to Daniel? I had pushed that thought aside while dealing with Lena and Adrian. Survival came first. But now there was nothing stopping it from rising to the surface. And once it did, I couldn't ignore it anymore. 3 days after their arrest, I got the call. Detective Harris. I think you should come in, he said. His voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. Something heavier than before. That was all I needed to hear. The station smelled like old paper and coffee. Familiar, almost comforting in a strange way. Harris met me at the entrance and led me to a small office instead of an interrogation room. That told me this wasn't routine. He closed the door, sat across from me, didn't speak immediately, and that silence said more than words. What did you find? I asked. He leaned back, slightly studying me. We reopened Daniel's case. My chest tightened, and a pause. Then, we found something. Time slowed. Not dramatically. Not like in movies. Just enough for everything to feel sharper. More real. There were inconsistencies, he continued. At first, they looked minor. Easy to overlook. But with everything we uncovered in your case, we took a second look. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just listened. Toxicology, he said. Originally ruled clean. Originally. Now? I asked. He exhaled slowly. Now we know what to look for. My hands tightened in my lap. Say it, I said quietly. He didn't hesitate this time. There were traces of a compound. Rare. Difficult to detect unless you specifically test for it. It can mimic cardiac arrest. The room felt smaller. He didn't just die, I said. It wasn't a question. Harris shook his head once. No, he said. The word landed like something physical. Heavy. Final. They were planning this, I whispered. Looks that way, he replied. We also found search history on Lena's devices. Medical data. Dosage patterns. Timelines. Timelines. Not impulsive. Not accidental.
Planned.
How long? I asked. He looked at the file in front of him, then back at me. Months, he said. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I wasn't in that office anymore. I was back in Daniel's kitchen, watching him laugh, hearing him talk about the future, completely unaware. They killed him, I said. My voice didn't break. That surprised me. Yes, Harris said. Silence filled the room again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was full of everything I hadn't allowed myself to feel yet. I want to see them, I said. Harris studied me carefully. You're sure? I nodded. I need to. He didn't argue. The holding room was colder than I expected. Not physically, emotionally, sterile, controlled, like nothing real was allowed to exist there. They brought Lena in first.
No muck-up.
No perfect composure. No performance. For the first time since I had known her, she looked real. And for the first time, she looked uncertain. When she saw me, something flickered in her expression. Not guilt. Never that. Recognition. So, she said slowly, sitting down across from me.
They told you.
I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at her. Really looked, trying to understand how someone could become this. Why? I asked finally. She tilted her head slightly, like the question bored her. Why not? She replied. I felt something inside me shift. Not anger, not shock. Something colder. He trusted you, I said. She smiled faintly. That was his mistake. The words hit harder than anything else. Not because they were cruel, because they were honest. You planned everything, I said. Yes.
No hesitaste. No denial.
The marriage, I continued. She shrugged. Convenient. My hands were steady. That surprised me too. And me? I asked. That made her smile again. Slightly wider this time. You were always part of it, she said. There it was. Not an afterthought. Not collateral damage. A target. From the beginning? I asked. She leaned back in her chair, studying me now. Yes, she said simply. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I nodded once. Thank you, I said. That caught her off guard. For what? She asked. For telling the truth, I replied. I stood up. She watched me carefully now, trying to read something she couldn't understand anymore. You think you won? She said. I paused at the door.
No, I said.
Then I looked back at her. I know I did. And for the first time, she didn't have an answer. I didn't see Adrian. I didn't need to. Some things don't require closure. Weeks passed, then months. The case grew bigger than I expected.
Fraud. Forgery.
Attempted financial exploitation. Unlawful administration of substances. And now, murder. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings, documents, medical reports, their own words. There was no way out for them. But something unexpected happened during that time. Something I hadn't planned for. I started rebuilding. Not just the house. Not just the routine. Myself. I cleared every room they had touched. Not violently. Not angrily.
Carefully.
Deliberately. I brought back what mattered. Photos.
Books.
Memories. Not as a shrine. Not as a prison. As a life. Daniel's presence didn't feel like pain anymore. Not all the time. Sometimes it felt like strength. I started helping others. Quietly at first. Then more openly. People like me. People who almost lost everything. People who didn't realize they were being targeted. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. They don't look like enemies. They look like trust. The trial came almost a year later. I sat in that courtroom, calm. Not because it didn't matter, because it was already decided. They avoided my eyes. Both of them. That was the only apology I was ever going to get. And I didn't need more. When it was over, people asked me how I felt. Relieved? Satisfied? At peace? I thought about it carefully. Justice isn't peace, I said. And it wasn't. But it was enough. That evening I went home. My home. I sat on the porch as the sun disappeared behind the buildings, painting the sky in quiet shades of orange and gray. The same sky. The same world. But I wasn't the same person. I had lost everything. And still, I was here. Stronger.
Sharper.
Awake. They underestimated me, I said softly into the evening air. A small pause. They won't make that mistake again. And neither would I.